never been done before, but you go right ahead. Within your constitutional right.
I seem to remember a few news conferences up here. I believe Mr. What was that attorney's name?
Rob Astorino. Those are the only
No,
two that I
Mr.
recall.
Sussman. I believe he held a news conference here too when he was concerned about the police
He might
department
have.
and their actions about Mr. Henry
Yeah,
and
you might
the
exactly
and the
correct.
murder. I believe there were a few
Go right
here,
ahead.
if I'm not mistaken. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Frank Morgenthaler. Today, we are here to shed some light on a critical financial situation that our town is in. To hear the current administration tell it, all is rosy here in Mount Pleasant. But the facts, unfortunately, do not back up the board's description. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in deep financial trouble. The truth has been kept from the public for
That's
far
not
too
true.
long. We need to change course to set Mount Pleasant on a sound financial footing. However, we cannot accomplish that goal with the current elected officials who ignore the facts, hide the truth from the residents, and have provided no sound financial plan to move this town forward. We need leaders who have the financial background and fiscal understanding to do what is necessary to correct our fiscal problems. Today, I have the honor of introducing to you a man who possesses the necessary financial skills and experience that is currently lacking on the town board. A man who has the desire to represent you, the people of Mount Pleasant, and a man who, with your help, will be our next town councilman, John Casario. John?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for attending this press conference. My name is John Casario, and today I'm announcing my candidacy for the town of Mount Pleasant's Town Council. You know, I've lived in this town for over 50 years now. Been married to my wife, Catherine, for 29 years. After we got married, we bought our house in Thornwood, where we've lived for the last 28 years. We have 2 children. Both of them are graduates of Westlake High School. You know, I grew up in Valhalla. I attended Valhalla schools, and I graduated from Valhalla High School. I'm a graduate of Pace University, where I earned a bachelor's degree with a concentration in accounting. For the past 25 years, I've been working in the corporate accounting field. I was a vice president in the financial industry for a number of years. And currently, I am a vice president for a publicly held financial holding company. I decided to run for office because our town's financial situation is deteriorating. And I believe my background and experience can help lead to a better future. I'm not part of the current political machine, which has caused this situation. I'm here to call attention to the New York State Controller's report on municipalities experiencing fiscal stress. The chart in front of me is the summary report of the Controller's fiscal report, which was released in May of this year. The data is public information, and I encourage you to look on the Controller's website if you want further detail on this. As you can see, Mount Pleasant is on the list of towns susceptible to fiscal stress. Now, according to the summary data, only 1.9% of all towns were found to have some level of fiscal stress, and we're one of those 1.9%. In fact, Mount Pleasant is rated 6th from the bottom of all 932 towns in the state of New York. The town supervisor, who's in attendance today, has provided very little information on this topic other than to vaguely refer to state mandates. However, every town in the state of New York is subject to the same mandates. So that must mean that 900 towns have done a better job at addressing these mandates than Mount Pleasant has. In fact, Mount Pleasant has the worst rating of any town in Westchester County, again, according to the New York State Controller's Office. So you might ask, how does a local government end up on this list? Well, according to the summary report that's backing up this data, all local governments experiencing financial stress had low fund balances, and most had chronic operating deficits or low liquidity. Some have issued short-term debt to fund operations on a regular basis. Here in Mount Pleasant, the town has increased its debt level and raided the reserve fund to cover operating shortfalls. And let me say this, using reserve funds to cover current spending levels is not a very good idea. The reserve fund is taxpayer money that is set aside to cover unforeseen future events. And unfortunately, our reserve fund level is getting lower. Now, secondly, I'm here to address the downgrade that was given to the town of Mount Pleasant by Moody's Investor Service. Now, I have that document right here. Again, anybody can look on the website of Moody's and get this document. For those of you that are not familiar with Moody's, they're a bond rating service. And when they downgrade a municipality, it usually means that the cost of borrowing goes up, which means the town expenses go up, which means our taxes will end up going up. Now, you don't have to take my word for it as far as whether we got downgraded or not. It's all right here. Now, let me just read a couple of things that they've said. Their rationale for the downgrade, right here, it says, the downgrade reflects the town's weakened financial position caused by reliance on reserves to balance operations. That's exactly what I said. The reserve fund is getting lower and they find that to be a problem. They also said that the outlook remains negative. Well, if the outlook remains negative, maybe we'll be subjected to another downgrade. I don't know. Now, has anybody here heard the town board discuss this downgrade? I know I haven't.
Nope.
Have you been at any meeting?
Now, this downgrade occurred in January.
When?
It's been 9 months, and all we've heard from this board is silence. Why haven't any of these two issues that I brought up been openly discussed by the current elected officials with the residents of the town? Are these financial issues the reason that 2 board members have chosen not to run for re-election?
No.
I don't know the answer to this, but I think someone needs to answer these questions. The people need a representative on this board, one who's going to ask these questions and get answers. I would like to be that representative. Now, although the situation we find ourselves in is very troubling, I'm confident with proper leadership, we can take corrective action and put the town back on the right track. But the initial step in any recovery program has to be recognizing that a problem exists in the first place. Only then can an appropriate plan be put in place and strictly followed. Now, such a plan was recently put in place by the town of Colony, New York. Colony is listed in the Controller's report as experiencing significant stress, and you can see that in the chart here. Now, unlike Mount Pleasant, the elected officials in the town of Colony immediately addressed their problem and put into place a 10-year recovery plan. I say good for them. You know, there are other success stories all around us about finances. Also on the website of the Controller, you can download a list of other towns in Westchester County. Now, on this list, we have our neighbors. The town of Greenburgh got a score of 14.2. Our score is 50.8. The town of North Castle, it's just over there, they got a score of 8.3. And the town of Ossining got a 0. They don't have any fiscal stress at all. Mount Pleasant should be on that list, the list with the 0. Also, recently in the Examiner newspaper was this article about the village of Pleasantville. And they say that they have a pretty good, strong financial outlook. We need to be more like them. Now, there's 2 other candidates in this race. Both were handpicked and endorsed by the current administration. They've been silent, failing to recognize the problem, and have not come up with a plan of action. But then again, how could they? Neither of them have any financial background to speak of. Both of them would just merely be rubber stamps for more of the same. The board will not change, and it will continue to operate as they have in the past, and the town will continue to suffer financially. Now, I chose to run for council because I recognize there's a problem. I know that my strong accounting and financial background will help us find a solution to the current situation. 2 seats are open on the board because those 2 incumbents have chosen not to run. This is an opportunity for the people of Mount Pleasant to elect someone outside the political machine, which is responsible for this mess. We need independent representation. I want to work for you, all of you, the people, not for any political party. On November 5th, we have an opportunity to choose whether to continue down this path of fiscal distress, or we can begin the process of addressing these long-ignored financial issues and remove our name from the New York State Controller's list. So I ask for your vote so that we can move forward together. You'll find my name listed on the ballot on the We the People line. That is an independent party line, and you may have to search for it. I have no idea where it'll be on the ballot. But anyway, I want to represent you and help move Mount Pleasant forward. So thank you for your time and have a great afternoon.
Just for those people who might be interested in some of the facts regarding the rhetoric that was just given to you, my name is Joan Mayberry. I'm the supervisor of the town of Mount Pleasant. The town of Mount Pleasant was declared to be susceptible to fiscal stress. The reason it was declared to be in fiscal stress was because there was low fund balance. As a matter of fact, for 2011, it was extremely low. And to respond to that, we laid off over 20 people. We have reduced expenditures. Today, if Mr. Casario had bothered to look at our fund balance today, we have $1 million and more in both accounts A and B. We have recovered from this experience. We are going to move forward. And notwithstanding all of the rhetoric as you're hearing, the town of Mount Pleasant will continue to be on strong financial ground. There is no community in the state of New York that did not have difficulty during 2010 and 2011. Some had perhaps a little bit more fund balance and were able to weather the storm better, but the town of Mount Pleasant made it through. We are recovering, and we will do as well as we can in the next few years. What we were also able to do was to keep the tax rate down, except for last year. Mr. Casario's answer is every time that we need money to raise taxes, I would refute that, because in some instances, you just have to bite the bullet, lay people off, do what you need to do, deliver the taxes, and not be able to raise their taxes because they can't stand it anymore. And the town of Mount Pleasant is susceptible to oversight by the state comptroller. As a matter of fact, he has been here for an audit. It will show that the town of Mount Pleasant has done a fine job with its finances and that we are moving forward in a very healthy manner. As far as the downgrade from Moody's, Mr. Casario mentions that, but he doesn't mention that it is a very slight downgrade, and we expect that to go up. We have many more investment properties coming into the town. The financial outlook looks fine. Regardless of what his experience is, because we have not heard from Mr. Casario until just now, I think the future of Mount Pleasant will be bright because it has elected leaders and will continue to have elected leaders who make the business of the town their everyday bit of work. They don't come out of subterranean places 2 days before an election where nobody knows who they are. Thank you very much.
Ms. Mayberry, before you go, just a quick question on your comment. I'd just like to know that if there was any verification, any documentation to back up anything that Ms. Mayberry just said. I know Mr. Casario had documents. Okay.
Well, it was nice of the town supervisor to come out here and recognize that we do have a problem, and also to verify that what I said is true. She hasn't said anything about what she's going to do to fix the problem. All she did is say that I came from some subterranean area when I've lived in Mount Pleasant out in the open for 50 years, so I mean, I don't know where she's been. But none of what I've said today is my opinion. What I've said today is on the New York State Controller's website, and also on Moody's Investor Service website. Those are third parties who have no vested interest in the town other than to provide the necessary information for the residents of the town.
John, just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
The supervisor just made some comments. I know you've backed up everything you've said with documentation from
Yes.
other agencies. Did she provide you with any documentation to prove any of the statements she just made on TV?
Well, as you saw, she stood here and made some off-the-cuff comments, and actually, I'm surprised that she admitted that she's raised the taxes in this town for the last several years. That's something that's pretty damn important to everybody in this town. Our taxes keep going up, and the services keep going down. I mean, I look at the roads around here, and they're in terrible shape.
Just one more point. In regard to the Moody's document, I believe they said that the outlook is dismal or something to that effect.
Oh yes, Ms. Mayberry said that our position is getting stronger, when the Moody's document that I read to you said the outlook is negative. So I don't know how you turn a negative into a positive unless you address the financial issues.
Now, as far as a downgrade, that does have an impact on the residents of the town, correct? It really would decrease
it
property values.
Increases the borrowing costs of the town, which could lead to downgrades, further downgrades in the town, which could lead to people not wanting to move here. We'll have foreclosures. Businesses might not want to move into the town. Already, this town board is very anti-business, and we need more businesses to come in here to provide for the tax base instead of pushing them all away. If she doesn't think that this is a serious issue, we definitely need a change. We need a change in all 5 seats of the board now. Unfortunately, only 3 are up for election this year, including her seat. So we need to put other people in the chairs to deal with all this financial disaster. That's really all I have today.
And just one last question.
One last question, okay.
Does the supervisor have a challenger? Is anybody running against her?
The supervisor does have a challenger. His name is Anthony Daria. I'm sure you've seen his signs around the town. Anthony, like myself, is a financial person. He's got a lot of background in finances, and he would be better suited for that top chair in the town of Mount Pleasant.
Final question.
Final question.
Why did it take so long for you to announce? What caused you to wait till now?
Well, what Mrs. Mayberry doesn't tell you is that for 2.5 months, she has tried to keep me, Anthony Daria, and Judy Melangrano off the ballot. She's filed objections against us. We tried to we tried to do a challenge for the Republican Party for a primary because we think the people needed a choice between their hand-picked candidates and someone else. They filed objections, took us to court, brought in all kinds of lawyers, spent all kinds of money, and eventually, on a technicality, I might say, not because of the merits of the case, they were able to throw us off the ballot. Then, we decided that we would go the independent line, and actually Anthony did the most work on this, getting people to sign the petitions, and we had to get 939 signatures, and we got 1,900 signatures. More than enough to get on the line, and Miss Mayberry herself filed objections to us and tried to keep us off the ballot. And I don't know, I would think it's just a miracle of God that we were placed on the ballot. And in fact, since Miss Mayberry said I've come out of the shadows, I've not been in the shadows. I've been trying to get on the ballot. And I got a letter from the Board of Elections allowing me to be on the ballot. I didn't receive that letter until October 1st. So I can't possibly do any public campaigning until I know I'm on the ballot. So here I am today to announce my candidacy and to get this campaign going. That's all I got to say on this. Unless there's any other questions,
Yeah, we're going to do one-on-one.
we'll call it a day. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Do me a favor, hold that mic for me here.
I'm out.
John, don't go away.